John Jack, hero of the Battle of the Huantai Nebula, U.S. Space Marine and the deadliest sapient in the galaxy, sat in a small bar nursing a glass of pure ethanol. Delicate shards of ice spun lazily in the vacuum beyond the glass steel window. His raspy voice broke the silence as he growled, "It's hard. You know," his eyes fixed on the view screen. A sad-looking Gelfradi male appeared, iridescent feathers drooping as he lamented the tragedies on Earth. The Quellian seated next to John nodded sympathetically as the human downed his drink, suppressing a smile. John shot the smooth-skinned reptiloid a dirty look, cursing himself inwardly. The Quellians, with their stiff, immobile scales that grew harder with age, found human expressions like John's irritated glance oddly endearing. To them, such features were childlike, an alien quirk of pliability. John tapped the rim of his glass, and the Quellian hooted for the bartender. Despite their appearance, the Quellians' stiff scales made them clumsy, at least by John's standards. An average Terran could dispatch a Quellian blood knight with ease, gouging eyes and suffocating under a single forelimb. But John chose to let the insult slide. After all, the Quellian wasn't mocking him. He just thought John was cute. "I'm not cute," John muttered, slurring slightly. "Of course you're not. Would you like more ethanol?" asked the Pretian on his other side. The young, 7-foot-tall lupinoid leaned closer, hesitating. "Is it okay if I pet your head?" "Fine," John grumbled. The Pretian's intimidating musculature and claws were tempered by their simple-mindedness when agitated. Covered in luxurious fur, they found human skin and hair irresistibly fascinating. As the Pretian began rubbing John's head with both hands, a delighted expression spread across its face. "Would you like more of those poisonous plants soaked in oil?" it asked, motioning to the French fries in front of John. He shook his head. Meanwhile, the Gelfradi on the view screen spoke solemnly. "These poor sapients exist on a world full of danger and predators. As recently as 100 years ago, humans were frequently preyed upon by dominant predators of their world." The image shifted to a hippopotamus, then to a snowstorm in upstate New York. The bar patrons groaned sympathetically at the sight of humans trudging through the snow in heavy coats. "Poor things," murmured the chitinous lick bartender, a bipedal scorpion-like creature known for their frailty and anemic constitution. John couldn't remember why the lick or any alien for that matter found humans adorable, but they all seemed to. "I fought in no fewer than 8 wars, John said, trying to keep the petulance from his tone. "That was very brave," exclaimed the Quellian, producing a Rubik's Cube. "Hey, would you like to play with this?" John buried his head in his hands. "Abu, do you need a nap?" A sudden crash from the door cut through the chatter. 6 paratite slavers surged into the room, their mucus-dripping shells glistening. Screams erupted as the molluscoid creatures spread out, wielding slaver control darts. John's adrenaline surged, clearing his alcohol-induced haze. His trained eyes scanned their weapons, a typical cocktail of analgesics and depressants meant to incapacitate most sapient species. One paratite froze, pointing excitedly at John. "Oh my God, boss! Look!" The mollus's shell spread open in delight. "It's him!" "Klokarak, get the camera." In seconds, a gooey tentacle was draped over John's shoulder as another paratite readied a hollow camera. John reacted swiftly, his elbow cracking into the paratite's head. The mollusk crumpled, and John pirouetted, snatching his glass of ethanol and hurling it into another's face. The salted rim seared its slimy skin, raising blisters. Kicking his fries into a third paratite's face, John used the distraction to leap off the counter, his heels driving into the shells of the remaining 2 slavers, leaving fractures behind. The final paratite stared, giddy. "I can't believe it! Captain, I got the whole thing." John cut him off with a decisive blow, leaving the room silent but for the groans of the defeated slavers. Half an hour later, Captain KX of the Red Panda arrived with his crew, binding the slavers. The octopoid captain glared at John, his skin flashing red and orange. John, this is why I don't like you drinking ethanol." What if they'd captured you and sold you to some exotic animal collection? I was so worried. Fine, John slurred, hunched over his drink. And where's your ID? It's a collar, John growled. John, it's not like that, KX said, exasperated. You're from a death world. The ID is just to prove you're sapient and not dangerous. It's intergalactic law. A formality. People don't treat me like I'm from a death world, John muttered, trying not to growl. The sound was soothing to KX's species, akin to a child's plea for affection. You'd tell me if you were keeping me as a pet, right, KX? Of course I would. And you're not a pet. You're a human. A good human. Who's a good human? KX ruffled John's hair, eliciting no response. Come on, let's get these assholes back to the ship. As John stood, his eyes flickered to the view screen. A feldspar newscaster smiled. On the lighter side, amateur photographers captured this footage of a group of paratite slavers and a human. John groaned, covering his face, and drained another glass of ethanol.